Chapter 1, verses 31 to 40. Vivittahi cha pashyami viparitahi keshava na cha shreyo nupashyami arpa svajanamahave na kamshe vijayam Krishna na cha rajyam sukhani cha Nimno rajyena govinda kim bhogaishivitena va yeshamarte kamshitam no rajyam bhoga sukhani cha kayimeva sthita yuddhe pranasya karmanani cha Acharya pitara putraha tathaiva cha pitamaha matula shashura pautraha shala sambandhinastatha etanna hantumiccami nato kimadusudana api trailokya rajyasya veto kim nu madhikrite nihatyathatarashtannaha vaprintisya janardana papamevashrayedasman advaitanna tatahinaha Tasmannādhā vayam antum bhātarashtrān svabhandavān svajanam ikatham hatva sukhinasyāma madhava yadhyapyetena pashyanti lokopahata chetasaha kulakshayakritam dosham Nikratohe cha patakam katam nayeyamasmabhihi papadasman nivartitum kulakshayakritam dosham prapashyadbhirjanardana kulakshaye pranashyanti kuladharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam krishnam adharmo himavadyuta
Arjuna continues with the reasonings as to why the fight should not happen. He has been giving so many arguments, saying how wrong it is to fight, how wrong it is to kill, all for the sake of kingdom, all for the sake of one's own selfishness. Why do we have to kill? In the backdrop of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna the warrior, who has been preparing to fight this battle for 13 long years. It's not that he was dragged into this battle. He has been preparing for this fight for 13 years. Not only has been preparing for this fight, his whole lifetime training is to fight. His whole lifetime training is to fight and kill. Not only his whole lifetime training was to fight and kill, killing and slaughtering is not new to Arjuna. He has been doing that From the time he is born, he has been doing only killing and slaughtering. He has been trained into it his whole lifetime. Training is to kill, to slaughter. Killing wasn't new to him, and especially this battle also he has been training, preparing for the last 13 years. And when he got into this fight, when he got into this battlefield, he said, I will not fight. Because killing others is okay. Killing one's own family is wrong. Killing others is all right. But killing one's own people is bad. And whatever your circle of identification is, all the morality, all the ethics will be practiced within that circle. To that extent your circle of identification is, to that extent your morality will be constricted, and anything outside the circle you will not bother. Just as Arjuna has been fighting for so long, killing for so long, and he never had any issues about killing. Suddenly in this fight, when he realized that he has to fight with his own family, he said, no, I will not fight. So, first thing that you need to understand, first thing that he is saying in the Bhagavad Gita is, you can never fight with the stranger. You always fight happens only with those who are known to you. How can you fight with the stranger? You cannot fight. Fight happens only with those who are, with your own people only you can fight. Or whoever you call as yours only you have to fight. And there are two ways of calling people as one's own. You can say my friend, you can say my enemy. Two ways you can claim minus: my friend, my enemy. In fact, enemy is far more attractive than the friend, because you spend more time thinking about the enemy than the friend. You are more attracted to the enemy than the friend. Second thing, the enemy of today was your friend yesterday. You cannot directly pick up enmity with anyone. Whoever you call as your enemy today, you would have had some blissful moments yesterday, some good moments yesterday. Something happened in between, that friendship turned into enmity. Same thing happens everywhere. In every relationship, there is always a relationship starts with a mindness. Relationship starts with mindness. Where there is no mindness, there is no relationship. And that relationship is of two types: friendship and enmity. And both keeps changing. Friend turns into enemy turns into a friend. So depending upon what side of it is, depending upon whether he is a friend or he is an enemy, your morality is decided by which side he is. If he is a friend, one set of rules. If he is an enemy, another set of rules. All arises from the basic confusion of a human being. The entire Gita is addressing this problem. In fact, the entire philosophy, the entire knowledge is only addressing this problem of the human being. The problem of the human being is this confusion. Problem of this human being is this, to be confused, is to be divided, is to be in this division, is to be in this confusion. What is the confusion? The confusion is the mind cannot take up anything wholly, nor it can reject anything wholly. This is the confusion. It cannot take anything wholly, neither can it reject anything wholly. It always does everything in bits and pieces. This creates the division. This is the law. I'll start giving examples, it becomes easy. The mind is that which remains fragmented. Mind is that which is divided by nature. What is the division? The division is you cannot accept anything wholly, neither can you reject something completely. If you can accept something wholly, you are all right. If you can reject something wholly also, you are all right. But then the mind takes something in part, rejects something else. Example. If you take an object, something in that object you will like, something in that object you will not like. In the very same object. It's not in relation to two different objects. Again I repeat. Any object you take, something in that you will like, something in that not like. Again a human being also. Any human being that you associate with, something you will like, something you will not like. This is the division. Like you say, your classes are very good, sir, but your tone is not very good. You talk very, even lullaby is better. Even lullaby is not so. You talk, your classes is good, but points are good, but your tone is something else. You go and buy a car. The mind says everything in this car is perfect except that two things. If only that two things are also correct, it becomes complete. And that completeness doesn't happen. Why that completeness doesn't happen? Because objects, beings equals package. It's a package. Package means something of it will be appealing to you, something will not be appealing to you. Nevertheless, it is a package. Now you cannot take that which you like and reject that which you do not like, because both belongs to the same. So the confusion. What is the confusion? Somehow avoid that and somehow take this. Futile attempt causes all disturbances. This futile attempt causes all disturbances. Because of this fundamental, what is the division? Mine and not mine. What is the division of the mind? Mine, not mine. The moment I say something is mine, automatically there are so many things which is not mine. Now what the mind does? As I desperately cling on to that which is mine, my eyes goes on to the next thing, that which is not mine, and I try how to bring that also into my fold. How I can bring that also into mine. The moment I take that as mine, the division starts. out of this division, you will never be able to decide. Out of this confusion, you will never be able to decide. Try to sail in two boats at the same time. Ramtirtha says, you can't serve two masters at the same time. Either serve God or serve Satan. Monday to Friday serve Satan, Saturday, Sunday serve God. This division doesn't work. This is the division, the confusion. Whatsoever decision you make, whatsoever choice you make out of this confusion is bound to create more confusion, not clarity. Whatsoever choice is made when you are confused, it's bound to create more confusion. Therefore, the primary duty becomes the primary duty of a human being. The primary responsibility of a human being boils down to gaining clarity. The primary duty becomes to gain clarity. All problems arises because of this lack of clarity. Lack of clarity. Here comes the real difficulty. Here comes the real problem. The person lacking clarity, the person who lacks clarity, he is not aware of his own, he will not be aware of his own confusions. This is that's where one becomes helpless. One is so helpless because the person in confusion, the person who lacks clarity will not know that he lacks clarity. In fact he thinks he is very clear. Not only he thinks he is very clear, he thinks he is so sure. He is so sure. That is the difference between an ignorant person and a foolish person. An ignorant person is one who is aware of his ignorance. He will not have any problems. He can take guidance easily. He can take guidance, follow whatever is said. He will not have any problems. The foolish person cannot. The foolish one cannot take guidance, because a fool, the definition of a fool is one who thinks he knows when he actually doesn't know. Greater the confusion, greater seems to be the clarity. So the person who has the clarity will not be accepted, will not be listened to. Not only that, whatever he says, the mind starts arguing with that. That's what Arjuna is doing now. One whole chapter is arguing so much, all from the root. Krishna is also talking. Krishna is also going to talk for 600 verses. But his talk is based on wisdom. Arjuna is also giving reasonings. Arjuna is also giving arguments. But his arguments is based on confusion, ignorance. The paradox of life is this. The wise man says, I don't know. The foolish man says, I know. The paradox of life is, the wise man says, I don't know. The foolish man says, I know. Arjuna is so clear. He is saying, it is so clear, no, this battle is It is so clear, this battle is wrong. It's so clear that we should not fight. Why are you still standing here? Let's go. And Krishna is not moving. The dialogue, the conversation is from a kind of clarity to a confusion, again to clarity. In the initial stages, the man is so clear. Understand this. All your problems of today was born from yesterday's clarity. Yesterday when you are doing it, you are so clear. If any wise man were to tell you, this is what is going to give, this is what is going to cause trauma to you, this is what is going to cause destruction to you, you will talk back, you will argue back saying, you will say, no sir, you don't know. You don't. The problems of today didn't come from your yesterday's confusion. What all you thought you are so clear, those are the areas that you are in problem. Therefore, the problems arises from actually it's not clarity, it is ignorance. Then the knocks and shocks of life creates what? The knocks and shocks of life creates a kind of confusion. Which direction to go? In that confused state, there is a possibility where you can be engaged in a dialogue, you can be engaged in a discussion. That dialogue, that discussion is Bhagavad Gita. In that confusion, there is a possibility. One way is to wait for the knocks and shocks to wake you up. Another way is when things are more or less all right around you, little bit of extra effort you can put to gain that penetrating capacity. Again I repeat, one way is through the knocks and shocks. Another way is when things are more or less all right, develop the penetrating capacity. Tragedy is when things are more or less all right, mind will be naturally gravitating to indulgences. It will not gravitate to something higher. Just as we are all very happy today. Let's go for a movie, no? We are all very happy today. Let's go for the Vedanta class, and it will not come. We are all very happy today. Let's go for a movie. Vedanta class next week also. Maybe I myself might not come sometimes, because something else happens. When things are more or less all right, the natural tendency of the mind is to gravitate towards indulgences, not towards the higher. So whenever you approach the higher, you are at your weakest point. When you approach the higher when you are at your weakest point. At that point of time, one discourse, one lecture, you want to learn, you want to know everything, you want to learn everything. Same thing, when things are more or less, that's where all these masters blow their lungs out talking when things are more or less all right, but no one listens to. He says it's like cry in the wilderness, he says. No one to listen to, because when things are more or less all right, the tendency of the mind is to move towards indulgences, and that indulgence itself creates a problem, a difficulty, and then you come in contact with the higher in order to, even when you come in contact with the higher, you are not actually interested in that higher, you are not actually inspired by that higher. Even that contact with the higher is only to solve the problem, so that you can go back to indulgence again. This is that vicious cycle. This is the vicious cycle. This is where beautiful is that observation. Ramana Maharshi said, You will come to an enlightened master and you will not know what to ask him, he said. You will come to an enlightened master and you will not know what to ask him. You will ask him something so insignificant in relation to a problem. He will, not that he doesn't know the solution, he gives you a solution. It works. But then what happens? Third day you will create another problem. He will solve that problem also. Again you will create another problem. You will create another problem. Sometime he goes away. We go on creating. Our way of creating problems doesn't stop. Problem is a misunderstanding of a situation. That's all. Problem is nothing but a misunderstanding of a situation. It's not the situation that is the problem. Your inability to understand that situation correctly creates the problem. Therefore, the solution is what? If misunderstanding is the problem, solution lies in understanding. That understanding is knowledge. That's what we are trying. Yeah. One full circle. I went somewhere to come to this point. A problem is a situation about which you lack clarity, misunderstanding. Therefore, anyone from outside helps you to solve that problem. Anyone from outside helps you to solve that problem. Please understand, he will become wise, you remain the same. He becomes wise, you remain the same, because you go and create another problem. You go and create another problem because in you the misunderstanding is still there. When you say misunderstanding, what it means is that penetrating capacity is not yet developed. Lack of that penetrating capacity. That penetrating capacity is what is called as intellect. That penetrating capacity. Since you are there, wherever you go, there is bound to be a problem. Because your ability to misunderstand, in fact, you don't even know that you are misunderstanding. Number one. Number two, even if a wise man says you are misunderstanding, you will say, you don't know, sir, you don't know the full facts about me. You don't know the full facts about me. And for a wise man, he doesn't need facts. One look is enough. And thank God he doesn't tell us what all he sees. We should thank him for that only. If he starts saying us what he is saying, we will be in trouble. The problem. Like for example, take a simple example. If there is a loss, that loss is because of situation, circumstances. If there is a defeat, if there is a loss, that loss is because of circumstances, situations, other factors. If there is a profit, if there is a victory, it's because of me. Correct? Loss, the responsibility is others. Profit, the responsibility is this division. Wherever it goes, it wisdom says, Vedanta says, either both are yours or both are not yours. Either you are responsible for both or you are not responsible for both. Mind will say, no, victory I am responsible for, profit I am responsible for, loss, in spite of all the good work I did, it's a loss because of you should not have allowed that person, sir. only that person wasn't there, I would have. When there is a profit, the same mind says, see, in spite of that person, I attain. This is the way of the ignorance. The way of the ignorance. To understand this, you need penetrating capacity. You can see through others' foolishness, I can see through others' foolishness, but I can't look at my own foolishness. I can easily see through others' foolishness, but I can't see through my own foolishness. That's where he keeps saying, you are a very good philosopher as long as problem is another man's. As long as problem is another man's, I can philosophize very easily. When there is someone dies, I can philosophize and say, what is death? Have you not read in the Gita that no one ever dies, no one is ever born? Because that person means nothing to me. Therefore, it doesn't make any difference. The moment the same thing happens to someone who is so worthy to me, who is so meaningful to me, the whole knowledge disappears. That's where any advice you give, others don't take you seriously at all. You know why? Because of this reason. Because you yourself don't know. A problem is a misunderstanding of a situation. Arjuna completely misunderstood the situation, as a result of which he has created a problem. Since misunderstanding is the cause, effect is right understanding. And to give right understanding to another is the most excruciating job, because number one, you yourself don't know. Second point, if you know, the resistance in the other is the resistance is so much. What is the resistance? What is the resistance? The resistance is this. The resistance is this. I know already. I come only to add up to my existing knowledge. No one says, I don't know anything and start. Everyone starts. What is the starting point? I know something already. I come only to add up to my existing knowledge. Existing things I want to add up. But knowing, maybe you may not know so much like you, but according to what I know. Krishna says, all that you know is only ignorance, because knowing brings about a clarity. Knowing brings about a clarity. Knowing brings about an objectivity. Two things happens. Knowing brings about the clarity. Knowing brings about that objectivity. That distance. Mind is that which gets involved. And the way to get involved is, it has to say how the mind gets involved. The mind gets involved by calling it as mind. The way to get involved is to say as mind. The moment you say mind, automatically something becomes not mind. The moment I say mind, the very saying mind itself makes something not mind. Number two, That which is not yours will always be much more than what you can claim as yours. Correct? The moment you say mine, something becomes not mine. Number 2, that which is not yours is always more than what is yours. And the mind becomes so greedy because it wants that. It wants that. Futile attempt is to make that which is not mine as mine. This is called ignorance. This is called ignorance. The second facet of ignorance, two aspects to it. One is mindness. The second facet of ignorance, the second aspect of ignorance is what is maximum today. Every human being thinks that they can know everything. Second facet of ignorance. Every human being thinks they can know everything. How is it possible? It's not possible. But the arrogance makes you to believe that you can know everything. As a result of which, I learn a few words in everything, little bit. I learn five words in everything, and that 5 words gives me an arrogance of knowing. Arrogance of comes. He believes that he can know everything. How can you know everything? Even in one field you cannot know. But then the arrogance says you can know everything. Go to the doctor prescribes the medicine, you come out, you Google that medicine, you cannot. You Google that medicine, what will you do after that? You cannot take that. How ignorance breeds, how ignorance develops is this. You take in information far beyond your capacity to process. Number 1. Number 2, arrogance breeds when information is, the capacity that which you have digested is less, the undigested is more. That's where in this classroom he keeps on saying 20% information, 80% reflection. We do 99% information, 1% I know. Reflection doesn't. You follow what I am saying? When a human being starts taking information beyond his capacity to process, to digest, to understand, what happens? What will happen? Instead of rightly understanding, he will understand it wrongly. He will understand it. That's where he says, reflect. It's not the more and more information breeds what? More and more information will not make you knowledgeable. More and more undigested information makes you more and more ignorant. The other side of ignorance is arrogance. Two sides to the same coin. The other side of ignorance is arrogance. Just as the other side of wisdom is humility. Two sides to the same coin. One side is ignorance, other side is arrogance. Just as one side is wisdom, two sides to the same coin. The other side is vinaya, humility. That's where the paradox of life. I started by saying, wise man says, I don't know. Ignorant man says, I know. Einstein wrote a fantastic piece of letter to his friend. He said, the last few years of his life, he stopped talking. He stopped talking because after he discovered that relativity, wherever he was invited, he was asked to speak on. How can you speak on relativity to a primary school children? He was also. One day he found out a fellow who has no knowledge of physics also giving a discourse on relativity and people clapping. And you know the tragedy? The imitation looks better than the original. The imitations are always far more attractive than the original. He came back and wrote a letter. He said, today I understood something about human beings, he says. Today I discovered something about human beings. Quotes. Within quotes. A man can talk and talk and talk on a subject and yet not know a word of what he is talking. He says it's possible in a human being where he can talk and talk and talk and not know a word of what he is talking. Every time I start the class, I tell myself I should not fall into that bracket. Hopefully one day I should also come out of that, because the talking makes you, or it can make me to believe that I know. If you think I know, it's okay. But if I think I know nada, I am in trouble. Are you able to follow the difference? A foolish man, he thinks he knows when everyone else around knows. He doesn't know. Only he thinks he knows when everyone around they know it very. And that man also can be logical. That man also can be appearing. Here Arjuna appears to that wise Arjuna. Krishna has to give another kind of wisdom. You follow? Ignorance has two things. One is mindness. Second is you take in information, you take in data far beyond your capacity to analyze, to digest. That's where if there are 100 data, 100 pieces of information, 98 will be junk. Only 2% will be the real. And to understand that 2% you need clarity. To understand that 2% you need clarity. Rest are all. And then the mind gets distracted by, the mind gets carried away by that, gets distracted by that and starts attending to that. Krishna, having got the clarity, he is waiting for Arjuna to stop. Because he knows all that he is talking is of that 98%. He is talking without knowing what he is. He is talking without knowing what he is. And he has been saying so many things. I am not going into those details now. He has been showing so many things he has been talking. Where we are now in verses 38 and 39 of chapter 1, where we are currently, he says, Krishna, these people, although these means these refers to the Kauravas. Even though these Kauravas, they are intelligent, but overwhelmed by greed, see no evil in the destruction of the family. Very powerful word he uses. Sin in treachery to friend. Mitra Droha. Of all the sins, Mitra Droha is the is the worst. Is the worst. Mitra droha means treachery to friend. Treachery to friend is like what Brutus did to Caesar. What Brutus did to Caesar. Caesar goes unarmed, unprotected when Brutus is there, because that is the trust he had. And the fellow said, only if you are there he will come, like that we can easily. Mitra droha, treachery to friends. And Arjuna is invoking that. They are treacherous. Even though they are treacherous, even though they see no evil in destruction of the family, let us forgive them. Let us still give them. 39 he says, since we are able to see this destruction, why not learn to run away from the sin? We are able to see the destruction. We are able to see what pain it is going to be caused to the rest. Why should we fight? Why should not? Why? We should not learn to turn away. Why should we not run away? This is the Arjuna ignorance in. This is Arjuna's ignorance in peak, where he takes Krishna also on his side. He says, we are seeing it, no Krishna. He is not saying only, he has no doubt about his seeing, and he also thinks Krishna also has to see it in the same way. Ignorance functions like this. I see it in one way and I expect everyone else to see it in the same way, and I include everyone else also. We all see it like that, no? Others have to say, internally they are screaming no, but outside they say, yes, asma bihi, us. Krishna, you and me alone are able to understand this. What are we able to understand? What are we able to understand? How this fight is going to cause total destruction. Yes, they are bad people. They have done the worst sin. Even though they are bad, even though they are worst, why not? Why not? We run away from this battlefield, because they are sinning. Why should we also sin? Because the logic is what? The logic is, one man commits a sin, that doesn't get nullified by you committing another sin. You need extraordinary clarity. In the end, the 18th day of the battlefield, think about this. 18th day of the battlefield, Duryodhana is dying. He's 80%. He's 80% dead. Even then, Bhima could not control his anger. He went and kicked his head. He said, no, don't do that. He was a king. Don't do that. He is dying now. You should not do that. And Duryodhana looks at Krishna and says, I am not worried because of Bhima kicking my head, because in half an hour's time, vultures and crow will pick on my head. I am not worried about that. But I have one question to you, he asks. Poor man, he asked the question, not in a position to understand the answer. He asked this question. The question that he asked him is, you accused us of winning this kingdom by how? How Kauravas got the kingdom? Not by fight. If they had got by fight in a straightforward way, Krishna would have said it is theirs. Well, we have no right on that. But how they got that kingdom? How they got the kingdom? By gambling. Huh? Cheating. Correct. Cheating. That's the right word. Cheating. That's why they have to be punished. You should understand this. Not that they got the kingdom by cheating. That which is not theirs. They got it by they acquired it in a very vicious way, in a wrong way. For that they have to be. That's the whole sin. Are you able to understand? It's not that they fought a long battle and Kauravas won and took the kingdom. If they have done that, the kingdom belongs to them. The kingdom belongs to them. Even Krishna can't go and say it is not, or at least he will not say. Maybe others will say. Krishna will not say, because it is theirs. They got it through treacherous method. They got it through a wrong method. And Duryodhana says, are you able to understand? You accused us of this, Krishna, but you also did the same thing, no? You also did the same thing, because Duryodhana got into the battlefield depending on three invincible. Three. Who are the three? Bhishma, Drona and Karna. Three. All these three cannot be vanquished in a straightforward battle. They cannot be killed. And Duryodhana thought he says, you accused me of doing this. What? Cheating. What did you do? What did you do? Here comes the very fundamental question of life. What is the fundamental question of life? Are you able to follow? Here comes a very fundamental question of life. He has done something wrong. Can one wrong be set right by another wrong? Are you able to follow? Throughout the human's life, this is the difficulty. That's where you need extraordinary clarity to undo that and not create and not substitute it with any other wrong. So Duryodhana is asking, not only Duryodhana is asking, this is the question that always been, can one wrong be set right by another wrong? See, all this problem comes only when you want to wake up. If you don't want to wake up, now all these questions will not bother. Why are you troubling, sir? Say us some 2-3 good stories and then we go back happily. Why confuse us with all? Looks like you are more confused than the lot. Krishna smiled. He didn't answer. He only smiled. That's it. Beautiful is that same thing that he is saying here. Arjuna is talking exactly the opposite. What is he saying? Even though they are bad, even though they are sinful, even though they have done sin to us, and they have done that worst sin. What is that? Treachery to friend. Why it is called the worst sin? Treachery to friend. Why it is the worst? Why it is the worst? Treachery to a friend is the most ungrateful act that a human being can commit. That's why it is the worst sin. Treachery to friend. Ingratitude stronger than traitor's arms, he says. That's the worst. Why it is the worst sin is because it's the worst. Treachery to friend. The most ungrateful act a person can do is to be treacherous to a friend. Who's a friend? Who's a friend? Interested in your welfare, wishing your welfare, doing things for your welfare, you turn treacherous to him. Mitra drohecha patakam. Of all the sins, Mitra droha is the worst. And the Kauravas have done that also. In spite of all that, let us run away. In spite, if you see that, what you should do? You should stand up and what you should do? If you understand this, what you should do? You should stand up and rectify it. You should stand up and rectify it. That's the whole play Julius Caesar. Mark Antony saw the treachery, he stood up and he rectified it. Correct? That's the whole play Julius Caesar. Brutus committed the act. Mark Antony made an attempt to rectify that. What is the rectification? Traitors, because they are all, and Kauravas are committed there also. If you carefully see, from the time Arjuna started talking, he has been listing all the worst sins and saying Kauravas have committed that, Kauravas have committed that, Kauravas have committed that. In spite of all that, let us leave them and run away. Ordinarily we will think, ordinarily on the face of it, if you see it, ordinarily what we will think? Arjuna looks far more spiritual than, what a man, sir. How can he even forget? And he is not forgetting, he is not forgiving. He has not understood the situation correctly. That's all. The philosophy is coming out of the philosophy that Arjuna is talking is coming out of his misunderstanding. How do you know that he has misunderstood? What is the proof? The proof is he is still disturbed. The proof is he is still disturbed. Out of the disturbance, he is talking all wise words. All the wisdom he is using only to support his weakness. What is his weakness? You use the wisdom to cover up. Wisdom is used to cover up the weaknesses. Wisdom must be used to transcend it, not to cover it up. Wisdom must be used to transcend the weakness. But then normally what people do, they use everything to cover it up. Just as a simple example. Instead of coming you tell that man come at 10 o'clock, the driver comes at 11 o'clock. You ask him, why are you late? He says, when anyone is late, first reason, traffic jam, sir. You also drove through the same road. You also drove through the same road. He is also driving through the same road. There is no traffic. Next day, again late. Again you ask him, inniki? Yeah. Suddenly some grandmother will die, some traffic jam will happen, car tire will get, or scooter bus tire will get punctured. He will cover it up. He can never transcend. That day he can say, I am late because I overslept. If only he can say that, next day what will happen? He will be beyond. Wisdom must be used to transcend. Wisdom is used to cover up. Even though Arjuna looks like he is very wise, he is using all the wisdom to cover up his ignorance. to cover up his weaknesses, to cover up his own attachments. He is taking shelter. He is taking a moral shield. He is taking the moral shield to cover up his weaknesses. And the moment the man takes the moral shield to cover his weaknesses, he starts appearing very spiritual. He starts appearing very, very noble. But it will not work with a man like Krishna. He will rip open and say, this is your true nature. When he rips open, you have two possibilities. To get angry with him and run away from him. You can get angry with him and run away from him. Or you can be grateful to him and transcend. You can be grateful to him, surrender to him and transcend. Or you can get angry at him and that's what happens. Most of the time, we get angry and we run away. Because we took a very big moral shield to protect, to cover up my own weaknesses. He rips it open saying, this is your true face. I get angry at him. Why? I thought I was so wise in covering it up. In a split second, he ripped it open. How I can accept it? I have to come back deeply. I come back deeply hurt. Arjuna is also getting deeply hurt. That's where you find, not only here, right up to the 18th chapter, he kept on asking the same question in various ways, but the question remains the same. What is the question? This is wrong, Krishna. We should not do this. And Krishna, any argument he comes up with, Krishna comes up with a new dimension. Because the law of life is this. You cannot corner a madman. You cannot corner a wise man. They will know how to. You cannot corner a madman. You will get tired, but that man will not get tired. If you have ever had a conversation with a mad person, he will be repeating the same thing with the same intensity again and again, and you will be tired listening to it, but he will not be tired. Same thing, wise man also. You think you have cornered him, he comes out with something, and you get so. Even though they have done worst sins, even though they have done all the bad things, Krishna, we are wise. First he is agreeing that he is wise, and then he is giving some leverage to Krishna also and saying, you are also wise. Now, since we two wise people are here, seeing the difficulty, it's in our hands to stop this. What? The sin. What is the sin? The sin of killing one's own. Arjuna is so stuck with not killing. Arjuna is stuck with one's own. That's all. Arjuna is stuck with one's own. On what basis you say something as mine? There's no basis. That's where mineness is called as a false arrogation. Mineness is called as a false arrogation is because in mineness there is nothing that you have contributed except you repeatedly saying mine. 10 times you say mine, it becomes yours. And mind works like that. See, like for example, you walk into this classroom. 7 o'clock you walk in. Don't come at 7 o'clock. You walk into the classroom, all chairs are empty. You will go and sit on a particular seat. Why you chose that seat? There is no reason. You just go and sit. Next week when you come, observe it. Your eyes will automatically look for that seat. No one is there, you will go and sit there. Third day, fourth week you come, someone else sitting there, you will say, next seat, no? Say, why? This is my seat. All seat belongs to this Andhra Mahila Sabha. It doesn't belong to you, doesn't belong to me. Just a false, just continuously saying it as mine. At one point of time, it crystallizes and it starts actually appearing as yours. After that, God can't convince you that it is not. It's not. Yes, of course, it is. Verse number 40.
Kulakshaye pranashyanti guladharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam krishnam adharmo vibhavatyuta kulakshaye pranashyanti guladharma sanatanaha dharme nashte kulam krishnam adharmo vibhavatyuta.
In the destruction of a family, the immemorial religious rights of the family perish. Having lost to spirituality, impiety indeed overcomes the entire family. The last topic, 40 to 47. Thank God, finally I have come here. Yeah. Only 7 more verses and we are finished with Arjuna. How totally depressed, he cast his bow and arrow and sits down saying, I am finished. I cannot do anything. All the wisdom leads a human being to that state. That's Arjuna. All the wisdom that he spoke led him where? To that state of depression, incapacity to act. Incapacity to act in a field where he is an expert. That's why it's sad. It's not in some other field. It's not that Arjuna didn't know how to cook and he is crying. Yeah. If he is doing that, it is understandable because he has no. In his field where he has been trained. Not only he is trained, he has become a great warrior, a legend. While he was alive, Arjuna was a legend while he was alive itself. That man got into this. The last topic, verses 42, 47. Families grow. The families grow from the roots of their values. The value they practice. What are the values that they have been practicing is what keeps the growth in the family. Not just the numbers. Arjuna is thinking families grow by numbers. Family can grow by numbers, simply produce, that's all. Family grows. Family doesn't grow by numbers. And we also think it's through numbers. Family doesn't grow through numbers. The growth is through Values. Values are nothing but your clarity about life. Values are nothing but your clarity about life. More clarity you have, more values you will be practicing effortlessly by itself. Are you able to follow? Values doesn't come from, it's not someone forces it on you and you are following it. If it is forced on you, you will somehow try to break it. You make a law and then as they say, the lawmakers are the lawbreakers. Correct. They are those who make the law alone breaks because there is no understanding backing it. The moment there is an understanding, you follow it. That is value. That is value. For example, if you have understood stealing is not the way of living life. If you have understood that fully, completely, the whole world can be offered to you, but you will not agree to steal. If you have not understood it correctly, it's only a question of price, that's all. Maybe I might not fall for 100 rupees, but if someone says 100,000, I will say, Uladana, I have fallen already. Someone says 10 lakhs, I follow what I am saying. Values are an understanding of what life is. Out of this understanding, you lead life in a particular way. That way is called value tradition. It depends on what you have understood about life. What you have understood about life. The moment you understand that, you live life in a particular way. Those are the values. Those are the noble values. Those are the noble traditions. If not, it's always the question of price. But we follow without understanding. Everyone takes it for granted that stealing is, even a 10-year-old child in this classroom will say stealing is bad. Stealing is bad because the youngest person is 10-year-old. He will say stealing is bad. One man had the courage to ask this question, why should I not steal? He said, why should I not steal? Of course, even why do you even ask? There is no need to even ask this question. Straight away it is understood that stealing is bad, and I end up all the time. One man had the courage to ask this question, why should I not steal? And he comes to a conclusion, therefore I will not steal. That man cannot be, he will not be tempted by anything, because that's the value. He says I will not steal is the value that he is practicing, arising from knowledge and understanding. And they set the standard, and the family honors them. Are you able to follow? A community rises out of this family. First the individual, follow the root. The individual. From the individual the family. From the family the community, country, humanity, all that. What is the fundamental? What is the root? The root is one individual. The root is one individual, and that one individual can inspire Not only that generation, generations he can, then it is called a family, community, country, whatever it is. This is one way, this is the one way of understanding. The way in which we understand family, community, country, it's all based on what? Without any reference to knowledge and understanding, it is based on ignorance. Therefore, what happens? It starts, they come together for a while and then they separate. Again they come together for a while, again they separate. They are coming together maybe for 300, 400 years also. Eventually they are also going to coming together for some purposes, they will come, again that is not community, that is not family. The family is rooted in the noble values. What is a value? Not the system of ethics and morals, not the system of right and wrong. Values is the way of life you live. Based on what? Based on how much you have understood about life. If you have no understanding about life, you will be living life in a different way, in an immoral way, in a wrong way, in an indulgent way. If you have understood about what life is, you will lead life in a very disciplined. You will lead life in a disciplined way. If you have understood. If you have not understood, I will lead life in a very indulgent. Arjuna is arguing, adharma will come when families are destroyed. When numbers goes away, he thinks adharma will be destroyed. Krishna is going to say, adharma doesn't get destroyed like that. Adharma comes in when? Adharma comes in when the humanity turns its back to knowledge and understanding. When humanity turns it back to knowledge and understanding, adharma sets in. So every now and then one enlightened master comes and brings it back, tries to bring the attention back to knowledge and understanding. Again we go back. Yeah. Again we go, because we are experts in escaping wisdom. We know how to escape. And one man once in a generation comes and tries to get the balance. That's why Arjuna is going on saying, adharma will come, adharma will set in when families are destroyed. Yeah. Big family, better that family gets destroyed. Maybe if the family is totally destroyed, dharma will become. Adharma doesn't come because of the destruction of the family. Adharma comes when? At what point of time does adharma sets in individual's life, or in the family life, or in the community? When the human being turns his back to knowledge and understanding. Today we run behind information, but understanding we don't do. We have information and so complacent with the information itself. Therefore, with all the knowing, with all the lectures and discourses about dharma, that man remains adharmic. The person who gives a discourse on dharma is the most. And Arjuna thinks dharma gets destroyed when family gets destroyed. Wrong argument. He has no understanding of adharma is because of no effort to understand. Krishna has been trying so many ways to bring some sense. No one was ready to listen. Now the only way is what? The weeds have grown so much when the weeds grow beyond a point, what the farmer does? Huh? You know what they do? Huh? What they do? You know? They burn the whole thing. The whole field gets burnt. So you can't, because you can't take one and one like that, because the whole thing is full of weeds. There, how much can you pluck out? Another way is what? Burn the entire field. When you burn the entire field, that's the only way that what can be protected? What can be protected? Huh? What can be protected? That sapling that's going to come. Otherwise, all these weeds will not allow what? Will not allow the new things. It will suck the vitality. So what he is doing now, when all methods have failed, what do? Burn the whole field. He is saying eliminate the entire clan so that dharma can be established. Arjuna is giving exactly the opposite argument. Dharma can be established only by keeping the weeds alive, Krishna. Arjuna is saying, are you able to follow now? Arjuna is saying, dharma can be kept only by keeping the weeds alive. Krishna is saying, dharma can be kept only by eliminating the weeds. But those adharmic elements are mine, no? That's all Arjuna is. But Krishna, solradallam correct, but they are my people, no? What to do? If you are wise, you will side with dharma, not with people. If you are wise, you will side with the truth. Whoever sides with dharma becomes yours. If you are wise, you will side with dharma. And whoever sides with dharma becomes yours. Then that is a family, there is a community. Otherwise what? You are saying very dharmic, but I am very comfortable with. I will not do anything to eliminate adharma, but I am very. If you are dharmic, first thing that you will do, first thing you will try is what? First thing you will try is to eliminate the. Why? Because as it is, it's very difficult for the individual to grow. In the presence of so much of adharma, even that one or two who wants to grow also cannot grow. Therefore, what he is saying, eliminate the clan. All amicable means have failed. That's what he writes. All amicable means have failed. Arjuna's fallacy is what? Arjuna's fallacy. What is a fallacy? Destruction of family will bring adharma. Krishna is giving exactly the opposite argument. He is saying only on the destruction of these unrighteous families, righteousness can be established. But I will agree to this as long as the other families. But if my own family members, what will I do? What should one do? Don't ask me, yeah? You do whatever you want to. Krishna says what you should do. What you should do? Huh? Protect yourself first. Run away. Run away from them. Protect yourself first. Next week.